Well, thank you, 12 of you, for sticking around. That's great. So, we'll go around and maybe we could introduce ourselves and a little bit about our company. I'll kick it off. My name is Brian Wool, and I'm the VP of Brand Sales at Resonate. We're a marketing intelligence company. We help our customers, largely brands, better connect and identify and connect with their consumers and customers. So, Eloy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for sticking around. Good afternoon, everybody. I think it's really important for us to be having these conversations with brands of our size. Obviously, there's all the other things going on with much larger brands, but a lot of those brands ended up starting as brands of our size, way back when, before there were events like this. So I work for a company called Spread the Love. We sell peanut butter, almond butter, and jam. We do a lot of website traffic, so think spreadthelovefoods.com, walmart.com, amazon.com/spreadthelove. The other portion of our business is gyms, restaurants, hotels, smoothie bars, colleges, hospitals, and things along those lines too. So the food service component is an important part of our business because it builds that profitability. My margins on Amazon are definitely nowhere near they are when I sell to a hotel in large drums and large pallet sizes. We currently don't have a presence on the grocery side of things, but maybe that's something we'll get to at the end. But that's been more of a strategic focus for us from a longer term standpoint.
Good afternoon. My name is Luke. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Outlines. And at Outlines, we make what I say are the things we all need but never loved. So they're shower liners, toilet brushes, dish scrubbers, these things that are used daily in every home across the country. But what's really different about Outlines is how we sell these products. So first of all, we only ever want to sell you what you need. So we're kind of like the antithesis of subscribe and save on Amazon. We take a lot of time to get to know our customers, their homes, their lifestyle, so that we recommend how many of these products they need and how often they need to change them. And the real part of our secret sauce is when those items become too dirty, that shower line is too soggy, or that sponge is like full of food, when the new ones arrive, you just take the old ones and you put them back in the mailer, and they come back to us. And we recycle them into new products, sometimes even the same as the ones before. We're really small and we're really new. We launched in January 2021. We're a team of 6 based out of New York. And before that, in my previous life, I worked for a much larger consumer electronics company where I led growth across DTC and retail and B2B, which for us was selling into schools and colleges. So cool. It's a very different It's a very different challenge right now, with very different budgets and very different amounts of team. But yeah, it's exciting.
I'm Matt Sutton. I'm the CMO of the Black Tux, which is in its 10th year, and it is the leading disruptor in the men's formal wear rental category. So if you think of the warehouse, we're the disruptor in the category. And our founder, Andrew Blackman, started the business with this after going to a wedding and not being proud of how he looked in his own wedding. And he had this idea that, waiting around or getting the product the day beforehand and that scramble before you're renting to go to a wedding wasn't the best experience. And so he pioneered a direct-to-consumer AI-based fit model where the business today is still 80% D2C. And people answer a few questions online, they fill out their fit, or they go to one of our showrooms and they get a box 10 days before their event, check out the fit. If it doesn't fit, they can tailor it, they can send it back, and then they return it in the same box that they received it in. And so it's pioneered itself on having a really, really in-tune fit, being style forward, and sourcing the material from the same place that $1,200 suit supply or other suits are sourced. So really, really interesting way of thinking differently about a legacy category.
So each of your brands is purpose-driven: Eloy, health; Luke, sustainability; Matt, around inclusion. How are you using that purpose-driven in your brand messaging, in your marketing, and how are you really leaning into what the company was really founded around? Go down the line. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting, and it was something that was said this morning when we were talking about sustainability. We just did this big survey of our customers, and we're very sustainable in our marketing materials, our website, and we asked our customers, our subscribers, what's the number one reason that you chose Outlines? And I think it was 80% of them said the cadence of getting this replacement helps me keep my home clean. So we were completely off. It was completely different from everything we'd been telling our customers. So we actually pivoted a lot of our marketing materials to talk about just how we make it easier to keep your home clean and never forget to replace these items. But what was really interesting is we asked our customers not just why they chose Outlines, but why they continue to subscribe. And when we asked them, why do you continue to subscribe? They said, because you recycle it and I can send it back. So what we actually have is this two-tier messaging where our mission is still at the core of our business, but it's not what's selling our product. It's almost just par for the course now for brands.
So from my perspective, very similar. So the company was founded in 2013 by Zach and Val Fishbane. They gave out jars of handmade peanut butter at their shoes optional wedding. And that's how the business was started. People came up to them afterwards and said, hey, how do we, purchase this stuff from you guys? They both had other jobs. Zach was in translations and on the marketing end of things. Val was a social worker in Los Angeles. So they were not planning to start a peanut butter business, right? But a lot of that initial marketing was done around, hey, we're a family-owned brand, which we still market ourselves as nowadays too. But now we've sort of grown up because that was, I think that was a very long time ago. But that it basically turned into from a side hustle for both of them. They live in Los Angeles, so they were able to test it out from a market side of things, doing, I think the mic's off now. So they were able to test it out. From a marketing side of things in all these little farmers markets and things like that too. And then I mentioned that food service. So they were cold walking up and down the streets of West Hollywood, selling it into these, restaurants, smoothie bars, and so on and so forth. But a lot of the initial marketing was done around family owned and operated, which is still part of our, messaging nowadays, but now it's more about single ingredient. It's a foundational ingredient in smoothies. It's a foundational ingredient for your child's lunch, things along those lines too. So we're not lost on the fact that it's something you're ingesting and it's something that it's we want it to be super healthy for. Yeah, you're good. We want it to be super healthy and we want it to be in a way that we feel comfortable giving it to our children, right? So. Okay, so now we're marketing it that way.
So we have a little bit of a theme in two of the brands on stage were born out of a wedding, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, very interesting. So, making waves, direct-to-consumer, challenger brands, right? So, how do all three of you consider yourself as a disruptor and challenging bigger companies? Maybe we could, talk a little bit about, how you think about that, some of the challenges and opportunities that, brings to your company.
Yeah, and that's also for us related to the kind of the ethos and what the company stands for too, because the wedding category is not known or has not been known for being the most inclusive category. And so when the brand was founded, it was from the get-go founded and prides itself both in the customers we have and the way that we reflect the customer imagery as being inclusive from a gender perspective, from a race perspective. And a lot of our customers today, as a result, come to us because they feel like they see in our imagery and in the product that they're being represented. And it's a point of differentiation for us. And it's also a point of differentiation for us compared to our competitors. And so I think Andrew, our founder, who thought that was very important, instilled that at the beginning, and that has become a leading source of business for us because it is truly how we talk about ourselves, how we run our business.
From my perspective, I definitely see us as a challenger brand, like the Skippy and Jifs of the world, because as my generation raises our kids, right, we're not purchasing those same, old school necessarily brands that we grew up on. We're looking for healthier alternatives for our kids. And during the and the Emic as well. We were able to be in stock on Amazon. We were never out of stock for our number one selling product. Why? Because I wasn't committing inventory to Whole Foods and grocery because we just weren't in those places. I can't compete with Skip and Jiffy and Justin's in Sprouts or Whole Foods from an end cap standpoint, from a couponing, from a free fill side of things. I simply won't be profitable, and we need to be profitable more months than not. That's why I love selling on Walmart.com, Amazon.com. It really levels the playing field. We've been there now for a little bit over 5 years, so we have great customer feedback over in those places. So if you search organic peanut butter on Amazon or Walmart.com, we're that first search result. We were never out of stock again during the pandemic, which helped us develop a new subset of customers who were just looking for not necessarily organic peanut butter, but just peanut butter in general. And the fact that Skippy and Jif and some of the other bigger players just weren't necessarily focused on that allowed us to grab a lot of that share. And I thought it was going to drop pretty dramatically in 2021. It didn't. I thought in 2022 it was going to drop pretty dramatically. It did not. We're up Q1 this year compared to Q1 last year as well too. So we've seen like a slight drop off, but it was not as dramatic as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, in terms of being a challenger brand, the kind of Samson Goliath model, I think it's exciting because it's exciting for our customers who are looking for something different. They're bored and apathetic with buying from Amazon or Walmart and just throwing it all away. It's great for our employees and our team members because they feel like they're doing something with purpose. But what's most exciting for is like our customers. Like they're voting with their wallets and they're saying like, no, I'm not happy with the status quo. I want to back this brand. And I can talk a little bit specifically about who our customer is, which is really exciting because like a lot of DTC brands, we thought that our customer was going to be this like urbanite millennial. And we did our research, we interviewed all our customers, and we were wrong. It wasn't. It was actually the millennial's parent. And this customer is a really interesting customer because this customer is a parent, in most cases for us, they're parents, they're homemakers. They have adult kids or they're becoming grandparents. And when you think about that customer was born in the 70s, right? And that was a time of like change and awakening where like, people got worried about like large corporations, interference. They got worried about the environment. And now these people are kind of flocking to these challenger brands just as much as younger generations of Gen Z, which I think is really cool.
So what are some of the unique challenges or opportunities being a direct-to-consumer company that maybe a traditional retailer or company has or doesn't have? Can each one of you talk a little bit about some of those challenges or opportunities, and do you see more challenges or are there more opportunities?
I like to say it's more opportunities. We can try a lot of stuff. If it works, great. We can jump on that. We do a lot from a marketing side of things. So I mentioned food service has a major driver for us. We were always trying to figure out how do we incorporate food service in the marketing end of things. So how do we drum up interest in our nut butters, regardless of if we're going to sell it to a hotel or not. But it's cool to see these larger format drums of product, which again are significantly larger than a 16-ounce jar. We've been doing a lot of stuff on Instagram and on a lot of various social media platforms. We'll send drums of peanut butter to just a subset of our customers and say, hey, if you could show us how you're going to use this in your household, regardless if it's somebody who's single, somebody who has 3 kids, somebody who's married, maybe a single parent, things like that, and if you could just videotape that and then sort of send it back to us and we'll repurpose that content. We found a lot of success with that sort of viral marketing, and that's been pretty cool. And then we have a great team internally of just great savvy marketers where we had one video on social media where all we did was pour the larger drum into the smaller jar. I can't tell you how many times that got shared. And just a simple, and there's so many of these simple, it's not like a life hack kind of video, but it's like those simple pleasure videos where it's somebody, I saw somebody the other day at one of the hotels basically ripping up the carpet and then putting down the carpet. And I was like, that'd be a cool video on social media that would randomly get 1 million to, 3 million impressions and then 500 comments and 600 shares. And just the video of us, because we're always thinking of new marketing ideas, but it was just pouring a 40-pound drum into a 16-ounce jar. got over 900 shares. I think it was like 3 million views, and then just a ton of comments, right? And just something as simple as that. So it's cool to be able to try those things out.
I would add, particularly when a lot of direct-to-consumer brands reach a certain level of scale, there is a tendency that we've seen across categories of companies of our size to optimize out of their brand voice. It's like they've grown up, they've gotten to a certain stage, and there's this formula that's applied, and marketing speak starts sneaking into creative as you have a bigger marketing team, and the very emotional connection that was instilled in the voice in the creative starts to seep out. And so one of the opportunities and challenges that we're facing at this stage, 10 years in, being almost a $100 million business, is how do we keep that connection with the customer? And we found that just really direct, pithy, funny language is what does it. We A/B test it, and it really is just going back to some of the tenets of what made us different in the first place. Because you see a lot of D2C brands that have gotten to the point where they were super distinct, and now I couldn't tell you what they stand for.
So you've all worked at bigger companies and now maybe a smaller company. Matt, when you and I were talking, I think we went over and then you had an interview that you're trying to find, I don't know what that role was, but can you guys talk a little bit like, bigger company, smaller company, do you look for a different profile of, people that you're bringing into the organization, piggybacking on, what you were just talking about, that, marketing speak, moves into that to make sure, like, what's the profile of the person? Yeah.
I can start. So I, in a previous couple iterations of my life, worked at Facebook. And I started when there were 100 employees in marketing globally, and when I left, there were 2,000. And there were 65,000 employees. And when I started, there were more problems than people. And it wasn't quite that way when I left. And so I think that what I found and what we recruit for in our company is people that enjoy operating in an environment where there is a scarcity of resources. Because there's a creativeness in problem solving that you can kind of interview for that allows them to be super successful in an environment where the reality is everyone is wearing a bunch of different hats. We don't have a social team right now, for example, so everyone's kind of contributing. I'm running our TikTok. Poorly, but.
Yeah, I think some of the best advice I got, I can't take credit for, was you don't want to hire an army, you want a team of Marines. So you want like these people that can just do a bunch of stuff really, really well, but maybe have a speciality that they bring to the team that they're going to share. I think we look definitely, this is my second startup I've worked for. In my previous job, I was employee number 3, and I left when we were 180 people. But yeah, you're looking for people that aren't going to be territorial about that speciality, but that are, have the values to work well. Like I think to what Matt said, like under pressure and do different things.
Yeah, and I would just exactly what these two said, as far as finding people who are going to roll up their sleeves, not afraid to sell. From our side of things, you have to be able to do QuickBooks, you have to be able to help me out with HR, run payroll when I'm not available, and then also at the same time, not be afraid to sell our product at any and all times, and always look for that opportunity there. I think also creating an environment of just like general overall good like just a high level of trust, and involving them in some conversations that if we were a bigger company they probably wouldn't necessarily be involved in from a financial end of things. I don't hide anything from a numbers standpoint. When things are going well, everybody knows about it. When things are slowing down, everybody knows about it too, because I don't want to hide that and just hide that internally. I'm a pretty, I don't want to say emotional person, but I want them to be able to know what's going on. And then what I've found with the younger generation, I don't think I'm that old yet, but they want as much feedback as possible. So, for example, we had a trade show about 3 weeks ago or so, and then right after the trade show was done, I had my couple of employees come up to me and say, "Hey, how'd it go? How'd I do?" right? Like immediately, and the trade show wasn't even over yet. So just like knowing that going into the relationship, because it's going to be a longer term relationship from our side of things, and really having an understanding, and that is on me to write down some of that feedback right away. I'm not used to that. I don't necessarily, I'm more feedback in the sales numbers. That's my, indicator of success. But just knowing that earlier generation from me now really wants that immediate feedback, and showing them that I understand that, I respect that. I'll give them the positive, I'll give them the negative, I'll give them what we can work on as a team, and then I ask them for feedback on me too, right? Which I find to be super helpful. And I'm saying, listen, there's nothing off the table here. Tell me when I'm doing a good job. Tell me when I'm not doing a good job. Because at the end of the day, we're a small team. So.
Can each one of you tell us a little bit about maybe some media channels that you're using, some that you're experimenting with, and some that you want to but might be out of reach because of budget constraints, people constraints, whatever it might be?
Sure.
Yeah.
So something that we've learned that's really interesting, this company was started when the primary customer was a millennial. And now we have as many 25-year-old customers as we do 33-year-old, which is surprising to me. There's a lot of young weddings. But what has changed is we've spent the past 10 years sharpening and fine-tuning our search program when people are looking for the brand organically or in paid. But what we are starting to see and what we're trying to solve in the channels that we're not fully hammering yet is that Gen Zs are not searching on Google. They're searching on TikTok and Instagram. And they're using the search results, which are the hashtag the black tux, to see if other people like the brand or not and are having good experiences. And so we have years and hundreds of thousands of posts on our blog that have been investing in the results there. And we have like 12 TikToks. And others, we have customers that are saying good or bad things. And so it's this unlock that we've had, which is we need to treat those channels like search. It's our SEO on social, and invest there with content creation to match. And we're across a bunch of paid channels, but those, I would say, are our future or current and future opportunity for growth.
I just want to jump in on that too, because that's very similar to what we're doing and what we've been doing. I think we've done a great job on the content side of things, but how do I know that because that person viewed that video and then they bought from me, 2 weeks later, how do I know that it would make sense to invest money into that? And I don't think anybody's really figured that out yet from if they post it on Instagram, if they post it on TikTok or what have you, that like the attribution factor. There's all these people trying to sell me stuff, and it just hasn't really been able to click, for lack of a better term, sort of from a longer term standpoint. And for me to say, yes, I want to invest a significant amount of money in that specific platform.
I think one channel that's been particularly interesting we're not at the same scale as these guys. Channels have been really lucrative and interesting for us. Unfortunately, shower liners and toilet brushes are not interesting, and they're not particularly beautiful things to photograph on like Instagram or TikTok. So we actually haven't put that much muscle behind like those channels. Instead, we've like really focused on affiliate. So we know that when people are buying products like this, yes, they'll search on Amazon, but like they'll also be looking at like the top 10 best shower liners, like The Strategist, like these kind of publications. So we just went out with like a really aggressive commission rate. And that affiliate strategy for us now is like, I think it's our number 3 attribution source. And what's great about it is it's evergreen, right? Like these pieces, they just live forever. So you're building this compound effect as you add to this bank of affiliates and backlinks. So and also for a new brand, it builds like credibility straight out the gate, which we are still working on.
So just being respectful of time, maybe we can end with this one. What, if you could solve one thing, right? What's that going to be for each of you, right? Whether, maybe focusing in on, marketing, attribution, spend in a channel, what's a big challenge for each of you if you could just solve it, right? Taking away the money, but, or the technology, what's going to really help grow the business?
I wouldn't even say mine's marketing because I don't want to say that's solved, but we have a strong enough team internally. I am experiencing supply chain issues now, which we did not have throughout COVID. And it's more been like some of the partners that we've been working with for a pretty long time. They all exploded during COVID. They overextended themselves in various ways, whether it was hiring or whether it was just from a general financial side of things. And then they haven't been able to manage that slowdown. Obviously, it hasn't necessarily been us who's been doing the slowing down, but there have been other brands that they're working with. So just managing that, and I'm not the CFO of their business, but when all of a sudden some of the supply chain manufacturers or just the general team that we've been working with has significant financial issues, and rising interest rates do not help, things along those lines. So just getting an understanding of their overall picture and making sure I have, during COVID I had other issues, but we never had a supply chain issue. So I wasn't looking for 10 different suppliers for caps or jars or lids or just, general boxes or what have you. But now knowing who's going to be around in 3 years as we continue to scale, because I need to rely on those suppliers from a longer term growth standpoint. Because if I'm going to pitch myself to Sprouts or Whole Foods in the future, I need to be able to know that that's not going to be, a short term problem. So.
Yeah, I think our biggest challenge is in marketing. And it was the challenge I had in my previous job. I think it's like, when they paint the Golden Gate Bridge, and when they finish, it's time to start again. And for me, that's operationalizing my marketing team, right? I want them to be, so right now we have this kind of patchwork of freelancers and agencies as well as some in-house people. But as that team grows and you're constantly just trying to figure out how you operationalize it to get the best return on investment there. And I think for any CEO, founder, CMO, that is the thing that keeps you up at night. Are you on the pulse? Are you doing all you can do? Are you leaving money on the table? And yeah, that's probably our biggest challenge.
I think ours is just keeping our eye on the brand and maintaining the ethos of what made it special and continuing to be experimental and pithy and creative in that way, especially as we scale the business and recruit and retain.
Yeah. So 10 years, we weren't talking about DTC, were we 10 years ago? I mean, it existed, but we didn't, I don't think that acronym, DTC existed. So your founder, who did he, I'm curious, who did he model the business after? Was there another existing, online company that, he looked at, had his experience and say, this is what I'm going to do and the reason?
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point, everyone was looking at the Warbies, the Allbirds, the leaders in those categories. I think that he modeled it off of also kind of the feeling that everything was going to being shipped at home before COVID even, and just leaning into the convenience in a way that made it just the overall experience much more delightful for the customer.
Any questions from the audience? I think we got a couple minutes left here. There we go. We got two over here. Want to give them a mic or just?
I don't need a mic.
Okay, there you go. Love it.
So Matt, my question's for you. So you mentioned the word wedding several times, right? How are you thinking about it as a special occasion? Because I have 3 boys. They all go to at least 2 or 3 formal dinners or dances or whatever. And then there are other, business occasions and things like that. So how are you thinking about broadening it outside of just wedding?
Yeah, so the last question was challenge. I'd say this is number one opportunity.
Yeah.
We're seeing it rapidly. Every week, a new example from Fashion Week to just trends in general. There's the hotness of athleisure wear has been replaced by a desire to wear formal again.
Yes.
Tuxedo is back, which we're very happy about. But and with that comes dinner jackets, interviews, prom. Prom's a big focus for us. So it's all the other categories of casual formal occasions that is simply just a different value proposition. Wedding has an added benefit of having a large group size. So I acquire one customer that is the groom, and then he invites 6 others, so there's a multiplier effect. But those others are what will grow and sustain the business in the long run. So it's a number one opportunity for us.
I was gonna say, I know it's relatively new, but what about like ChatGPT? Is that playing? Like it's a new tool. Everybody's doing crazy stuff with it. Have you guys tested it out or any similar things for any of your businesses?
That's how I came up with all 6 questions today. So seriously, I just typed in what's the best 6 questions to ask a panel of DTC marketers, and that's what it came up with. Incredible. So anyway, no, seriously.
I think I saw this company out in the lobby over at ShopTalk in sort of the floor area. They're doing it from a customer service end of things, which we're a small brand. Everybody touches customer service on my team. But I'm doing customer service sometimes in the middle of the day when I'm doing 10 other things. So I'm not thinking about, hey, I could sell them a 6-pack of almond butter too if they're buying, unsalted crunch. Maybe they buy some jam. Maybe they buy some chocolate hazelnut butter. So this company basically has a tool it's a chat bot, but then it also sells and it also can sell them a different product as well, where I'm not always thinking about that. I'm thinking about just answering your question, helping you with your credit card payment, something along those lines, or, if they want to know how to use it from a functional side of things, I'll do that, but then that's it. I'm sort of saying, okay, you got everything you needed, cool, I have 5 other things that I'm doing. So that's where I think, from a customer service end of things, it could help me personally and then from a business and help me sell more to the existing customers who are reaching out to me saying they want to buy, right? Whereas I might just say, okay, I'm going to help you with one thing and then that's it. I need to move on to something else.
Yeah, I think the same for us. Like, we're not at the size or scale where we're going to be building like AI into any of our like owned tech. We're going to see that innovation in like the SaaS platforms that we use, and it will probably become something that we actually look for in platforms as we grow and scale and onboard new platforms.
This is for Matt. Maybe talk a little bit about connected experiences, because there are multiple ways to interact with the Black Tux. My own example started digitally, went into this, for this in-store experience as well, and it seemed to me to work pretty seamlessly together. So I'm curious, what's the thinking behind that for you, and how do you maintain that sort of consistency across channels?
Yeah, it's interesting. Retail continues to be a really great future growth opportunity for us. We have 4 standalone showrooms and are in 27 Nordstroms. But when you go into a Black Tux store, you can't leave with anything. And so we're not taking advantage of the inherent desire to leave a store with something. So POS is a huge opportunity, but we do, because of that, even our checkout experience is done through our native website flow. So we actually, in our store associates, are using the website to do all of the checkout, all of the sizing, put in their information, and then when they get home or if they ever want to reorder, they have their entire fit profile, which is really kind of perfected with AI online, and then they can just reorder. So it is as seamless for them if they are in store as if they want to do a home try-on or if they're just online.
Thanks, everybody. Great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you, guys.